Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce out. Another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond compare.
Jetzt kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von hinten an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!
Welcome to Dortmund Dispatch. Today I'm joined by Pedro. How are the Netherlands this time of year? Is the wind really bad? Just freezing rain all the time?
No, I'm good. What's up, Eli? What's up, everyone? Yeah, no, it's chill. I think I got used to the cold. I know I'm Brazilian, and usually I think you guys would assume it's hard for me to adapt. But I mean, I think I'm chill. It's cold, of course, but that's why I bought a really good jacket for this kind of weather. So I don't really feel at all don't really shake it. But I mean, what really give me really cold nights, it's just my teams overall. And I'm not gonna say specifically which team, but we're gonna talk about a specific one who's gonna play our beloved BVB that really annoys me, and not really excited for that, but excited to be back in the episode.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we had a pretty dramatic end to the week, but we have a midweek match to talk about first, as Borussia Dortmund dominated Werder Bremen. What did you think about that one?
I mean, I'm gonna be completely honest. I think from both games against Bremen and against St. Pauli, I wasn't really watching all the time. I think because against Bremen, I was on commute from a city to visit some friends. I actually met one of my friends. Shout out to my friend, my German friend Tim, who is a Werder Bremen fan, coincidentally. And we talked about the game and our expectations. And yeah, we beat their asses, which was good for us. But from what I could see from the match against Bremen, I didn't really think that the actually score translated to how well Dortmund played. Of course, I think it's a very misleading scoreboard, and I think we didn't have as much. I mean, we had control, but I don't think we did enough with the ball as much as we did against Frankfurt. So I think that was my overall impression, but I can really go into tactical details or anything in specific because I haven't watched the whole thing. But I'm glad that Guirassy is back on his scoring days. I'm glad to see some minutes for Fabio Silva as well, not only in the weekend but also against Bremen, of course. And yeah, I think it's been a couple of interesting days for Borussia Dortmund. And yeah, I'm glad that we made the 6 points that we needed in both home games because it's a great way to start the year.
Yeah, and Guirassy scores a goal that's at the end of it, which makes it a little bit more flattering, which, I mean, it was a goal. I don't know how real it was, but kind of changes the scoreline. The XG kind of has us right in line at the end there. Just because of that last goal, you get an extra 0.53 to tack it on from really a embarrassing giveaway. But Guirassy takes advantage. Do you have any thoughts on him? I think Joey and I have been saying some negative things, so do you have anything to kind of go against that? Anything positive? Do you think now that he's scored recently, we'll see a bit better play on the pitch?
I think honestly, Guirassy has been the same overall player that we have seen since he started in Borussia Dortmund. I really agree with you guys. I think he hasn't been on his best form recently, and when he's not scoring, he doesn't contribute with much besides that. Which of course, it's not bad to be a striker that scores goals because that's the main point why you're in that position. But at the same time, you need to understand that it's a team sport, and when you're not in a good momentum, and all players go through those kind of phases, you need to contribute in other instances until you find your better shape with the amount of games that you play. And I don't think Guirassy has been up to the same level that he showed us last season. At least he's not scoring as much, and besides that, he's pretty much the same, not really contributing much in build-up. He's not the most technical player on the striking position. I think it's very sad that his contrast in the Bundesliga is Harry Kane, which is a very technical striker, very different from his profile. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. I think the amount of minutes that Silva has been getting in the past few games, it's no coincidence. And I think, and I'm glad that coach has realized that and give him the minutes that he deserved. And it's also at the same time good for Girassi overall to be on the bench a little bit, just try to understand his situation, get himself back up, and try to fight for that spot again. Because otherwise, he'll be a little bit in a comfort zone, only always being a starter, but not always performing to the expectations that we have. So I think that's the best decision for all of us. And yeah, I wish he could continue scoring as he did against Bremen.
Yeah, I don't believe in it. Especially like the way he gets that goal is like it's not through any quality of his own. Uh except for the finish, he did take advantage of that. Uh but yeah, let's talk about the next game. I think this one's a little more interesting as Borussia Dortmund played a dramatic one, actually pretty similar, if not actually a little bit better on XG, but the scoreline was a lot closer. Do you have any criticisms there? Like, is the XG lying to us, Pedro, or was this like a bad performance?
I think it's again. I think it's very similar to Bremen in terms of how we control the game. As I said, I wasn't here in the Frankfurt episode with you guys, but I really liked that match, and I was really excited with that match because I think I haven't been really excited with Dortmund lately. Lately, I mean, we have been winning games, but like I feel more apathy overall because like I know we are good enough to keep in top four, but I don't think we're good enough to be in those kind of positions to go fight for trophies or at least fight like stay really close to Bayern Munich and all the other teams we are playing in the Champions League, for instance. But in that match particularly, I really liked how we controlled the ball, like in possession. I really like Julian Brandt in that match. I really thought we had the upper hand against Frankfurt, and I was really upset when we got the draw because I thought we really deserved to win in that match. Usually, we just score the first goal, go park the bus, and then just concede a goal or just find a win with very like not that large of a deficit. I mean, I think the Bremen game is a little bit of a exception as of lately. But yeah, I think against São Pauli, it's that same old like Borussia Dortmund spirit again. Like we scored two goals, we have a clear advantage, and then we just concede two goals, and then there goes our like large score line. So it's a little bit confusing. I think the goals on their own, I think they happen due to a little bit of individual mistakes. I think the first goal, I think Kermit is obviously the responsible for being the position where marking zonally, but I didn't. Emerson didn't even jump to at least fight for the ball. He just accepted that it was a lost cause, and we considered that one. And the second goal, I mean, props to St. Pauli for that setup play. I think it was really well rehearsed, and they executed really well. I think the player had an outstanding finish. But of course, I think Svensson could be a little more like quick to react to that. But I think I give more like credit to Sampaoli than one. But yeah, it's hard to debate. Like, is that like a Dortmund thing or is it a manager thing? Because we keep changing managers, but those mannerisms continue to happen. But at the same time, I understand it became a little bit of a vibe with the club, and it kind of became a folkloric kind of thing with Dortmund in the past few years. I still think that we just lowered the lines a little bit too much too soon, gave São Paulo a little bit of the upper hand. And I think they took advantage of it, like comparatively to Bremen, who, when they had the ball, they didn't do much compared to what St. Pauli did, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm glad that we got the win there against Frankfurt. I mean, lucky for MHM, we became from zero to hero.
Yeah, so I actually kind of disagree here. So I don't think we were like particularly dominant against Frankfurt. I think that one actually is very much like an old Dortmund performance where like you get the chances, you get the goals, and then you just keep conceding chances. And this isn't to say it was like as bad as we were last year when we were like losing all the games and stuff. Like it was better than that, but it was still not especially good. Like if you want to look at it as like it's an away match against a team that has expectations of Europe, then I'd be like, okay, then it would be a good match. But like that ignores the fact that Eintracht Frankfurt last year sold two attackers that were genuinely elite on the world stage and has replaced them with I think three guys that have left the club and one guy that can't stay fit. So I don't know how highly you can talk about this team, and that really changes the way I think that match should be viewed. So like if you view it as like last season's Frankfurt, I think you give Dortmund the benefit of the doubt. And then you look against Werder Bremen, and every time we've taken an early lead, Niko Kovac has done what Bayern Munich does not do, what Leverkusen does not do, what the teams that Dortmund should be viewing as peers do, which is they continue to dominate the ball and take the game to the other team. And we didn't do that in that match. And in that match, we scored a goal in the 11th minute. And I think that's why I think Niko Kovac is much more content to like sit back and absorb pressure. Nothing goes in against Werder Bremen. They didn't really create anything. They didn't really deserve a goal. And I think if you look at some of the goals against St. Pauli, like both coming off set pieces, but like neither of those is a good chance. The first one's probably the better of the chances for St. Pauli. And again, that's just Emre Can, zonal marking, doesn't see the runner, doesn't pick him up, and by the time James Sands jumps, it's way too late for Emre Can to do anything there. So like that's a bit of an issue. Like we did just fire our set piece coach, so it's not like there's anything for me to really analyze because like the guy who's our current set piece coach has had whoever's covering those duties now has had like 2 weeks essentially with the team, barely been able to train anything. So it's not like you can really say too many bad things. Like you concede two set piece goals against a team that's very set piece reliant, but like overall you just didn't concede chances. Two balls went in the back of the net. Like that can happen. Even if you don't concede big chances. So I don't want to let like that bias me too much. And then you get like the win in the end because of like literally a penalty that like by the like you look at the rule book, it's a penalty, but like morally dubious.
I disagree with that one. I think that was a clear penalty. As soon as I saw that, I was like, that's a penalty. Like, even though, like, Evo, of course, was accidental, but he took Bayer. Like, he could be soft, but it was a stupid. Like, he didn't need to do that. I think Bayer wasn't going to do much. Only needed to follow Bayer close to the byline, and nothing probably would have happened. But yeah, he took like a instinctive decision. Like he mistimed his kick, got Bayer, and I mean, you
Yeah,
can
I'm just
claim
talking
it's a
about
little bit
how
soft.
they run through that one little corner of the box, like, and that's where it goes, and like they lose the game off that rather than like because Dortmund
Oh, okay.
necessarily played well, if that makes sense. Not that it wasn't a
Yeah,
penalty,
no, no,
like
it
it's
makes sense.
clearly the right decision, but it's just not like
Oh, okay.
if that happened to Dortmund, you would be like that is such an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, that's for the sport, and it was a correct decision. Like we can really do much, and yeah, I was not saying that like St. Pauli had a lot of control. I just thought Dortmund gave more control to St. Pauli and put them in positions in where they feel really comfortable with. And yeah, those kind of things happen when you have players like Emre Can in the starting 11. And yeah, it's just unfortunate. I thought we could have done like more with the ball in both games. I agree. Like we haven't played well like in neither of those games particularly. But I mean it's good at least we have the wins, but that's mostly the expectations I have with these teams, with the team. But at least we didn't drop stupid points that could cost us maybe the. I mean, if we have won those games that we conceded by the end of the game, like who knows where we could be right now?
Do you? I don't know if we should. I don't think there's any reason we would save it for our start of the week. So do you want to do a little Joe Bellingham talk?
Yeah, I'd love to.
So he returns to the starting 11 against St. Pauli. Do you have any thoughts there? Like, do you want to criticize his performance or because I could do a little compare and contrast if you're interested.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm interested. Like, I think you can go more, as I said, like, I didn't go that deep into both games. But what I will say is that, like, Joe Bellingham is a guy that I criticized it here before because I expected more from him, even though he's a younger player and he's still developing. His price tag and the expectations I have of him, I think I was a little bit surprised of how he has been performing, but I feel like he's adapting to the league bit by bit and he's more accustomed to the structure and the tactical setup that Kovac uh, has for this team. And I think he really surprised me positively in the past few matches. He's not perfect yet, but it's a guy that I can see fitting more in a starting 11, and maybe on the second season he can have his breakout year. And yeah, excited to see if he's gonna take the spot now because if I'm not wrong, I think Sabitzer is not fit for Tottenham tomorrow. So we're probably gonna see him starting again. We don't know, but I think that's a good chance he'll come back to his former country and then maybe deliver a good performance for us.
Yeah, so the big thing that stands out to me every time he plays is that you're talking about comparing him to Sabitzer and Mecha. Sabitzer is averaging 37.7 passes attempted per 90. Felix Nemecha is attempting just under 39 per 90 this season. And Joe Bellingham is at 47.5. That data's per FBref. And the SofaScore data for this match has Job attempting like 61 passes compared to Nemecha in attempting 38. And like there's a couple minutes that Nemecha misses at the end there. Like he comes off in the 83rd minute, so he misses about 10 minutes. Like just the gap there is huge. Like you see that every time they're on the pitch together, it's one guy is just constantly getting on the ball and looking up the pitch and playing passes. And like Nemecha can carry forward. He was unsuccessful in all his dribble attempts in this game, but like just in the amount of energy it takes to attempt a dribble and to carry the ball up the pitch, and the variance there, like you can only attempt so many dribbles, so many carries per game, that Nemecha, I think, deserves a lot of discredit essentially for some of the match to match struggles that Dortmund has in terms of ball progression. Because like I think you've been very critical of Niko Kovac, but like when your number one starting midfielder cannot really pass the ball forward at a very high level, and it has to rely on dribbling forward, I think that creates these kind of inconsistencies because dribbling like has such a higher variance because it's such a low event thing. Whereas like passing, you're always going to get closer to your mean because the more passes you attempt, like the more you're going to be able to complete if you're a good player. Like it's very hard to have a complete like off day where like as a ball progressive passer who's like pretty good at it, which is what I think Joe Bellingham's been this season. Like you're never gonna have a match where you're not able to progress the ball at all as a passer of his quality. He didn't have his best game against St. Pauli, and it's not like the hardest fixture, even though St. Pauli are competent defensively and just completely toothless in attack, despite the fact that they scored 2 goals in this match. So I think that overall, like Job has the two high-profile mistakes, but I think that he's almost surprised me on the ball. Like I would not have expected the two mistakes to happen, but I would have expected just him to be a little farther back in his development in terms of his ability to play with the ball at his feet. And he had some very nice moments in this one. I think he also had um, the ball that went to Fabio Silva, where he had like the nice fancy little layoff. I think that it resulted in a shot for Kareem Adeyemi, maybe a goal. So not actually no, it was not Kareem Adeyemi's goal because that pass came from Julian Brandt. But yeah, still thought he played very well. Like there's a lot of room for improvement still, but his passing I think is very good overall, and for him to be at 20 years of age and that far along in his development as a passer, I think is very impressive. So that's all I really have to say. But do you have anything else to add? Anything you noticed maybe out of possession?
No, I think his out of possession work has been more giving more discipline, and I think I really it's a thing I've been missing, and especially in this scheme where the two ways really need to go up and down the pitch a lot. And I mean, I disagree a little bit with you in terms of match. I think he has been improving a lot this season in many aspects. As many may say, he has a particular not that of a high ceiling, over which I agree. I'm not sure Match will ever become maybe world class midfielder. Probably not, but I think he has a very interesting features that this team can add, and I think they have a really good dynamic together. If this duo can work out with the more passer profile and scanner with Joe Bellingham, and also the more ball carrier, dribbling heavy and more physical profile in match. I think they complement each other really well in the midfield if they manage to, if Kovac managed to find a nice dynamic between both of them. But yeah, I think overall, I think that's all I have to say on that matter. And I'm really enjoying Joe Bellingham, and hopefully he gets more minutes because either we want it or not, I think he's gonna be the future of our midfield. So
Yeah, I'm not criticizing Mech's overall game. I'm just saying, like, as a passer, there's just like you can't be a good passer playing for a team that is in second in the league and completing or attempting, not even completing, less than 40 passes a match. Like that's just not good enough. If we're talking about profiles, like yes, he's the more dribbly player and he's a pretty good carrier, very good carrier, I would say, ball carrier. But overall, you need more. Like you need to have a certain minimum level of passing, and to me, Mecha is just always going to be a problem. Um, Starting this frequently for Borussia Dortmund, if he can't just like be better on the ball, it's that simple for me. Uh, but let's move on because Mecha is not going to be my dud of the week. I'm going to have a different one. So let's get into that. But first, it's going to be our star of the week because we're positive here. We have nice things to say, and I'll let Pedro say nice things about someone.
oof, man. To be fair, I don't even think I thought about it at this point. I mean, it's late here, it's almost midnight, and now I just realized I haven't thought about it. But if I can go like really quick on my head here, I think a guy I really like seeing back in action again is Karina Adeyemi. I think that's a guy who needs to continue starting for Borussia Dortmund. And of course, against St. Pauli, he had like a beautiful moment. And even technically, I thought that assist for the first goal was really interesting, where you have all the guys expanding the field and um, just putting a lot of people on the left side and leaving Kamira Demi for the one-on-one, and him having that space to go to the byline and being selfless, giving an assist for the Julian Brandt goal. I thought it was excellent. I love also the dynamic with him and Fabio Silva together in the second goal. So yeah, I think for me, Kamira Demi should start more, even though he has some uh, alleged personal issues or like behavior issues like that we don't really know about. He's too talented for us not to start him week in and week out, and I was glad to see him back on the pitch again. Also because he's a very entertaining player overall, and I want to. We sometimes we forget that football overall it's a entertainment. Like as much as we want to make it serious and we love it, I mean it's just an entertainment, and I love seeing him play. So please just put him more on the pitch. So for me, Curry is the star this week.
Yeah, he was my first choice for sure, and we call it star of the week. If it was like the winner of the week, I would say Fabio Silva because he gets 2 starts and Dortmund put in 2 of their best attacking performances of the season, I would say, or at least by XG. Obviously, like you have the penalty there and the Garasi gift, but like still 2 of their better attacking performances given how bad it's been. Um, but it's about it's star. It's not a guy who's like, very nice assist, very unselfish. Love to see that. And he works very hard off the ball, but it's not star. Like, he's not starring, but he is showing that he deserves to get some regular starts. So I just wanted to give him a quick shout out there. But my star of the week is Nico Schlotterbeck. It's got to be. Like, who else is starring for this team in the same way? Against Werder Bremen, gets the opener. Getting a lot of shots lately. As I've won 2 of the last 3 fantasy weeks. Star player in my fantasy team, Nico Schlotterbeck. Star player on the field, Nico Schlotterbeck. The best passer on the pitch every game he plays. The guy can carry forward, and I don't even remember that he got skinned against Frankfurt and it led to them scoring a goal. So I don't even remember that. The last 2 matches, he hasn't really put a foot wrong, and all credit to him. Was not really involved in, I think, conceding either of the goals. Well, yeah, so he was not involved at all. You cannot blame him for either of the goals that St. Pauli scored. He didn't really lead to either Pauli or Bremen getting a chance. So just star of the week, Nico Schlotterbeck. What a player. So then let's move on and be negative. Pedro, I'm going to go to you first for your dud of the week.
That's a great question. I was even thinking on who I thought I had not performed up to the level. And I think in match, I think it's a fair shout this week, particularly. I think we could mention him at some point, but I'm not sure I'm gonna do that. But I mean, it's been pretty hard. Like, I think the easy answer here would be Emre Can, right? Because the way he, the first goal was led, like he didn't even jump. But at the same time, he scored the winner in the end, so I don't think it's really fair to him at the same time. I think I would go for now with Daniel Svensson because of that second goal against St. Pauli. Again, like, I don't think it's I don't have the full picture because I haven't watched both games like overall, so I don't know, like, particularly I can give it like a full analysis this time around. But yeah, I think Svensson could just have reacted a little bit better on that moment, particularly. So I think I would just say Svensson for now, but I don't really think that was like a very outstanding or very obvious dud of the week. Even Kovac, I think it's kind of a little bit of a winner this week, especially because it hasn't been stubborn and just changing, like seeing that Kirasi is not performing to the standard, even though he was our like the guy who scored the most goals for us last season. He still saw what's happening on the pitch and just changed the team for the better, and the team improved with Fabio Silva. So in that sense, I think it was one of the few times I'm going to compliment Kovac, but I think my dad would be Svensson in this time around.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a little bit of a cop out here because like I was all ready to say Emre Can, but like it does take like excellent composure to score a penalty that late on against a guy who's shown he can be pretty proficient at saving penalties. I think they said it was like 6 of 8 penalties he saved in the Bundesliga, which like cannot be right. Like, there's no way that's real, right? But that's what they said on the broadcast, so not my fault if it's wrong. But I could go Gregor Kobel, push my agenda, but overall in the season, despite like maybe not the best performance against St. Pauli, like that first goal, the shot looks a little slow. It's very well placed. The positioning on the second goal from Jay Jones, like that's a pretty central area on the strike. If his positioning is maybe a little bit better, like he's not fully prepared, it feels like, for that front post delivery that came in. And like that's a bit unorthodox of a delivery, but still, like you'd expect a little bit better. But I'm going to go with a cop-out answer because I don't want to be too harsh to anyone, except for the player I'm about to name, which is Julian Duranville. Like, you can talk about the performance and like the promise he's shown, but like we're now talking about 2 performances that are good against Barcelona and Mainz in 3 years. Like, the injury's not necessarily his fault, but you don't get to you don't get to misbehave in training when you're not performing on the pitch. Like, you want your move, cool. Like, we're gonna get you your move. Like, you're clearly not needed in the first 11 or even the first team squad. Like, that's not needed. Like, you want to move, we're gonna let you move, but you can't be messing up in training. You can't put your head down in training. That's just not. That's not good. And when that story comes out, maybe it's a little salacious. Um, I think it was from Build, so maybe it's a little salacious, but you don't like to hear that. Like, this is a guy who needs to be working his butt off to make good on his promise. And even if that's not going to be at Borussia Dortmund, like, it could still be, like, anywhere. Like, if he's going to have a successful, long career as a football player, like, he needs to get to work. And he needs to prove something on the pitch, and right now he's not going to get on the pitch for Borussia Dortmund, so he needs to be proving it in training. And when you see that story come out, it's a little concerning. And if Borussia Dortmund didn't like put up almost 6 xg to 0.9 across these two matches, would I have a different name for you? Yes. So I'm not trying to be overly harsh, but you're on watch. You're on notice, is how I would say it. We do have a couple quick stories to get in, unless you have any comments on the
No,
the
no, I
stories
completely
coming
agree
out
with
about
you.
Durnville.
Yeah, no. I think it's really unfortunate on Juju, and it was like I was really excited to see as Borussia Dortmund jersey, but hasn't been lived up to the expectations that I had for him. And of course, the injuries are not necessarily his fault, but his behavior are only responsibility are on him. So he needs to uh, be a little bit more mature. But yeah, we can move on to the next topic.
Yeah, it's just Build, but we'll segue straight into the next bit, which is Build is reporting that the most likely loan move for him is FC Basel. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like,
I mean, not many, man. I don't have
yeah,
much of a. I think it's yeah. I think we can move on.
I don't know how low the level. Like, I'm not saying that's like too high a level, but we just need to ensure he's playing. And from what I saw in the third tier of German football last year, mainly in highlights because we don't really get any games streamed in the U.S. For the German third tier, it wasn't good enough in the third tier. And the goals and assists weren't flying up. So I'd be a little concerned there. But maybe Borussia Dortmund's second team, excuse me, were pretty bad last year after an injury to their main man in Julian Hetver. So like maybe that was the issue, and it's not just about Durnville's performance at that level. And he's got to start. That's all I have to say. Next up, we have a story about a certain Leeds Academy player. We've been linked with a couple different guys from the Leeds Academy in recent years, namely Archie Gray, but we also got linked with Cody Drama at one point, whose career's not turned out very well, but we didn't sign him, so that's not a criticism on Dortmund. But we've been linked with another one. He's now playing at Toulouse, and it's Charlie Cresswell. He's allegedly been on Borussia Dortmund's radar for some time. However, the bosses are still assessing whether the English defender meets the club's standards. This is again from Build, so like, how much are we believing it? But do you know anything about the player? Do you have any thoughts on this one?
I mean, I've heard a little bit of him. I think Tottenham are also linked with him and a bunch of other clubs. So I think he would be more tempted to a move to England, probably. But yeah, at the same time, we probably need more depth at center back, anyways, because Anselmino is probably not going to continue with us. And of course, I think Emre Can is probably renewing his contract. But can we really trust him? Especially, we're going to keep Kovac in that scheme with three center backs. So yeah, I think it would be interesting to make a more in-depth assessment on him. But yeah, I don't really know much in depth on him. But I know he's really um like a lot of clubs are interested. So
Yeah, the passing stats are not pretty. But the attacking stats are. So he's only listed at 6 foot tall, but when you look at the non-penalty XG he's putting up and the aerial duels, one, like, you worry a little bit less about the height, even if it is only in France. Like 65% win percentage on his aerial duels this year, nearly at 70 last year. Like, those numbers aren't exceptional, but they're good. I'd worry about it a tad just given the lack of height. But some of that being lower could be because he's getting in so many aerial duels in the attacking box where it's a little harder to win them. Um, but the passing's a bit of a concern. There's not really any carries or take-ons to speak of, so that might lead you to believe he's a little bit slower, but I haven't seen him play, so I can't comment on it too much. Um, Overall, like, I kind of agree with Pedro, where like if there's interest from England, I don't really want to get involved too much because I feel like we'd have to pay over the odds when the benefit of a club signing him from England would get is that he's an English homegrown, and we don't get that benefit, so it doesn't make sense for us to pay for it. Um, so it's hard to judge without a fee. We'll see. But just wanted to keep let you guys know that we're keeping tabs on it. Next up, this is just a bit of housekeeping. Musa Kaba, who is a 16-year-old midfielder and center back, mainly a number 6, coming through Borussia Dortmund's academy, made a squad for the first time against Frankfurt, I believe it was, is now going to be out of action for several weeks as he suffered a ligament injury, but he should be back in training at the beginning of February. Don't need to speak on that too much, just wanted to let you guys all know. And then, Pedro, you told me the pronunciation of this at the start of the show, but your Portuguese is better than mine, so correct me if I'm wrong. But Borussia Dortmund have been heavily linked repeatedly in the last couple weeks with Kaua Prats. We didn't do the last name, so that might be a little rough at the end. Can you
No,
say it
that's close
for
enough.
the fans? Can you say it for us?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we have this young lad from Cruzeiro. His name is Cauã Prates, and he's a young left back slash center back. He has also played center back for the Brazil youth team in the South American Championship U17 last year's on. I think it was the March. Yeah, it was March, April, and he started all those matches as a center back. So he's a dual threat there. He's a little bit of a can play in different positions, of course, but he hasn't been playing much in the first team for Cruzeiro. From the stats I collected, he only played for Cruzeiro in the first division professional team for 12 matches. And I think overall, with also the under 20 team, he totalized it at 1,200 minutes, almost 1,300 minutes. So I think it's a good enough numbers for him to have the experience. And even though he hasn't played much first team football, he has started the season for Cruzeiro, especially because Brazil, the season really finished really by the end of November, beginning of December for us. And the season started earlier this season because we have the World Cup. So it's going to be a long gap. And the whole calendar is a mess right now. We're trying to change everything with the different directors at the Brazilian Confederation. There's a bit of change in president, so the guy who just came in just changed everything. So the starters are having a little bit of rest. So Kawan had some time to show his skills this season for Cruzeiro. He has 3 games now for the state championship. He scored a goal, and hopefully he keep improving as a player. I don't particularly know much about him. I think I only know that he's an interesting player defensively because of the dual possibility playing as a left back and center back. I still need to make some assessments on him. Maybe I would like to write an article on him or just make a full analysis for you guys at some TikTok video. You guys let us know if you want to know more about that. But yeah, I'm excited always when they're looking for South American talent, and I think Kawan is an interesting investment. But I think it will depend on how much we'll be willing to invest on him. From what I saw, I think he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 12 million euros. I think it was something like that. Maybe it's a little bit too much for a guy that hasn't played for the professionals just yet. But yeah, I think it's just the price these days. I think Brazilian clubs are also not stupid, and Cruzeiro is a very well-run club these days, so they're not letting the boy leave for less than 10 million. So I think that's really on the market right now.
Yeah, I think the first offer we had was 10. That got rejected. And it's up at 13. And as much as you can say, like, he hasn't played a ton yet, and, like, he hasn't. Like, he's only played 600 minutes between the Sudamericana and the Serie A this season, according to FBref. But, like, that's a lot of minutes for a 17-year-old. And even in Brazil, like, where they have players come through at younger ages, and, like, even if you look at lower leagues, you still have to be very, very good to get 600 minutes as a 17-year-old. So I think there's a lot of promise there. The club's been bitten a couple times, I would say, by some of their, like, U18 signings in the sub 10 million, or I would just say, like, the bargain range, which is now sub 15 million. I know Brian would love to let me know that the inflation has gone up there a ton, but overall, like, this is a little bit more than I think you would have to pay, like, for some of these teenagers, but it's not out of the, like, it's still reasonably low, and I think it's worth the kind of risk, because you get him in, and I think that, like, last season we were talking about your boy Jan Koto having some struggles integrating. Like, now is a good time to do it, because we're pretty confident that Jan Koto is going to be playing for Borussia Dortmund next season. Like, I don't think there's anyone who would not be at least a little bit surprised. Like, right now, I'm probably 65-35 Koto stays, so it's not 100%. Nothing's 100% in football, but, like, you have the Brazilian there. Fabio Silva speaks Portuguese as well, so it should be easier for him than maybe it was for Rainier. Is that the guy we loaned from Real Madrid many years ago? Like, he should have an easier time of it. Yeah, did not work out. But, like, granted, that was only a loan for Dortmund. We didn't get our money back on Gio, I'll tell you that. And we signed him at 16. But I think we got surplus value on the pitch, so that's not a knock on Gio. But yeah, so I think it's, like, fair value. It's not an underpay. It's not a steal. It's not like we're finding this gem that no one's ever heard of. Because, like you said, Brazilian U17 international at a bigger club in Brazil. This is kind of the going rate, and I don't know. It's interesting. It's exciting. I don't know how ready he would be next season, and, like, does this take you out of the Tom Rafa sweepstakes, or, like, does he come in and get a couple hundred minutes next year, and then Remy Bensebaini leaves, and you bring in Rota, and then you have two guys in a similar profile that can maybe play left back, left wing back, and a little bit of left center back if you need them to. Like, I think there's some interesting stuff to talk about there, but we don't need to do it today because it's not official yet. But overall, I'm excited. I'd say that.
Same, man. I'm excited to have another Brazilian on the team. Hopefully, if this deal gets done, and yeah, if you want, we can move on to the next topic.
Yeah, I think that's actually all we have for today. But, I remember our first year doing this podcast, almost 3 years ago now. You were like, I really hope that Borussia Dortmund gets back into the Brazilian market. They've been missing out, and this could be our second in the last 2 years. So, clearly shows that Sebastian Kehl is our number one fan. So we have 2 matches to preview, and we're going to start in the Champions League with Tottenham Hotspur. So we brought along our resident Tottenham Hotspur expert, Pedro Rodriguez, who moonlights, I would say, as a Tottenham fan, but typically nowadays when people admit they're Tottenham fans, they wear balaclavas. So How bad is it is it South London? I'm not sure.
No, it's North London, but yeah,
North
it's been
London.
bad.
Oh my god.
It's been bad. No, it's just, bro, like, I will try to do like a full, like, serious analysis here. Like, I'm sorry, guys, if sometimes I digress and go a little bit like full Spurs fan rant here. But what I have to say is that Thomas Frank needs to go, and I think it's very lucky on Borussia Dortmund that he's gonna still be the manager under the dugout, according to David Ornstein, and, which is fun because, like, according to Ornstein, they're also like it's more likely that he's gonna leave rather than stay. But why he's still there is just because you need time to find a sub or like a gap manager in between, like doesn't really make sense to me. But yeah, I think overall Spurs have been pretty poor this season. Like we started really well, but my questions with Thomas Frank was always how he's gonna make Spurs play big team football, and in his in possession game was really what worried me. Even though he adapted a little bit with Brentford, it was never like 100% like controlling proactive football. Where I was more direct, and he kept the same approach at Spurs and to a level that it's his build up structures are interesting. He has some variations. He usually starts at a 4-2-4 in build up. He likes to play in between the center backs and the midfielders, but he also really loves his deep balls. He loves just Pedro Porro just launching a long ball to Kudus or whoever's in the right wing. Like that's a very like on brand Thomas Frank Spurs play. And but I think we're really pretty much covered with Nico Schlotterbeck and Svensson there. I think we're fine. It's not going to be any dangers, but I think Spurs has been really poor in possession this season. We can't progress the ball in midfield at all. His setup, offensively speaking, his setups are pretty basic, like nothing special. I even have an interesting stat here from Nathan Clark from the Extra Inch podcast. They have really good Spurs content, especially in terms of statistics. And he just brought me interesting stat here. Thomas Frank's Tottenham have 25% win rate record when having the majority of possession versus a 40% when having the minority of the possession. So I think this is a beautiful scenario for Borussia Dortmund. Just sit back, leave the ball to Spurs. Nothing's gonna happen. Like it's chill. You guys don't need to worry. Just hit them on counterattack. Mickey Van Aven, it's not gonna play, so it's not like there's gonna be any fast players to cover Karina Adeyemi. I think that's a matchup I would love to see, Karina Adeyemi versus Mickey Van Aven. I was really excited for that, but we're not gonna have Mickey there. But yeah, just overall, if I could give some tips for Kovac, just press. If you need to press, only press Romero. He's our best ball playing and just in possession player at Spurs right now. We don't have really deep line playmakers who can progress the ball and just escape pressure as much as Romero. The only guy I would say has the same kind of profile is Bissouma, but he had only his first game against West Ham on the weekend because he has some extra out of the pitch issues. So yeah, do that. Worry about long balls and don't worry. Like just give the ball to Spurs. Nothing's gonna happen, and please don't screw this up. Like if we lose, I want Thomas Frank out of this club for good. Like I had decent expectations of him at the beginning of the season, but I gave up a long time ago. So please just win.
Yeah, some drama also behind the scenes as Matis Tell, who was purchased for 40 million euros, as Tottenham decided to bail Bayern out of a little bit of an overpay there, not registered anymore. So
Bro,
don't
he's
really know how they.
one of our best players in the past two matches. Like, why? He's one of our best players in the past two matches. Why would you do? Every time he has got in, he's contributed. Why would you do that? It's just crazy.
Apparently, it was the only way you could register Dom Solanke. But I don't know how you didn't like have the forethought to like
Kick
set your
someone else
squad up
out.
so you
Like,
could not register someone else. Yeah, like
bro,
you
kick
have
someone else
five
out. I don't
midfielders
care.
that are all bad. Like just take out one of your
Bro,
bad midfielders. They all do the same thing.
yeah, like,
I don't
I
know.
mean, I would kick out Paulinho, but he's not even playing. Like, he's injured. So, like, yeah. it's just bad.
Yeah,
Like
I
the
think
squad
I think
building
you
is
were.
just terrible as well. It's so
Yeah,
unbalanced,
I
so
mean Tottenham
unbalanced.
Hotspur exists solely to bail Bayern out of their bad decisions at this point. Um, However, that said, now I'm nervous after I make that statement that they're gonna beat us. Xavi Simons is pretty familiar with us, but I don't know. I kind of
Man,
didn't.
it's not
I
gonna
talked
work.
bad
We don't
about all
have
their signings.
bro. Xavi is good in the pockets, close to midfield, not getting the ball in behind where Thomas Frank likes him. He's closer to the box. The better, the opponent's box, the better if he's closer. But the ball is not gonna go
Yeah.
through there. The ball doesn't go through the midfield. Thomas Frank is allergic to midfield progression. He's allergic to that. Like that just doesn't happen. So don't worry about that.
Are you gonna start Ben Davies in this one? Because I know he started a couple matches
No,
recently,
he's
and I
injured.
would
He's
love to
injured.
see. Oh,
He's
that's sad
injured.
because
He's
I
out of the
was
season.
really. Oh, I was gonna make a joke like Ben Davies has been starting the last couple matches. Like you said, you want to see Mickey
Yeah.
Van de Ven against Kareem Adeyemi. I was like, as a slightly biased Borussia Dortmund fan, I would like to see Kareem Adeyemi against Ben Davies, but doesn't seem like
Yeah.
that's gonna be happening.
hmm
Um, I don't know. I don't even know who you're. Are you on your like? Didn't you sign a new left back? That's like a
Yeah,
child.
we have Souza from Santos, my team in Brazil. Like he's a good player, but he's pretty raw still. Like he would require some time, and
Yeah.
he's not even announced yet. So yeah, let's just hope
Okay.
Udogi is in shape because I think Udogi really has the potential to be a really good left back, like overall, like in the league and in Europe overall, because he has a very physical profile, can go further and back like Nuno Mendes, but doesn't have the same technical refinement as Nuno. I'm just using Nuno as a example. I'm not saying they're the same player. I'm just saying they have similar physical profiles. But yeah, let's. I think Udogi will be a threat. But I mean, you will probably play Jad Spence on the left and Porro on the right. I think that's going to be it.
Interesting. Well, we'll see. I still predict Kareem Adeyemi to have some fun there. Quickly score
Absolutely.
prediction. You have me a little higher than I would be otherwise, because like Champions League game, like anything can happen. You know, a team turns up on a night, but
Nah,
you just got
I
me
mean, from what
believing
I've
now. So
seen,
I gotta.
bro, from what I've seen, like I think the only thing that can hurt us
Mhm.
besides the long balls, it's like set pieces. Set pieces, we have been really good in
Yeah.
set pieces this season. I think that's something Dortmund really lacks at times, so we really need to worry about that. But yeah, I think if I could give you a prediction, I would say a 2-1 win for Dortmund. I think the game's going to be more even than it should. I think Dortmund are going to try to find a way to put Spurs into the match, but we're going to find like a late winner, as typical of Spurs losing at home in 2026. Like I mean, I'm pretty used to it. Like we go to the lane and we lose. Like it's not even a just Dortmund, just don't screw this up. Just win. So Thomas Frank is fired. I only need you guys to do that, and then we go up in the table for qualifying top 8. That's all.
Okay. So I'm looking at a 2-0 win here, and then we have Union Berlin this coming weekend. Tom Roth is out injured, so you're gonna have to learn. I think their backup left back Derek Cohn is also out through red card suspension because they played Juranovic, I
Mhm.
believe it is, on the right wing. Um, or excuse me, at left back, not the right wing. Literally the opposite corner of the field, but you know, close enough. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. We're playing a team that's kind of overperforming their underlying numbers, I believe. Like if you look at their XG accrued, they're in the bottom half. You look at their expected goals allowed, they're still in the top half. So they're like probably around where they deserve, you might say. Um, but this is Borussia Dortmund we're talking about. This is kind of a must-win, home or away. You think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if I'm not wrong, yeah, they draw against Stuttgart as well in yesterday. So they're always playing this very tough defensive football that always makes me nervous, especially when Dortmund's gonna have most of the possession. Let's hope the team can build up interesting plays, but I think it's gonna be one of those games we find like goals in set pieces or like or from crosses. But yeah, I think that's a game for us to look out because if they have been overperforming their underlying numbers, like we also saw a similar scenario with St. Pauli this past weekend, and we almost lost the points there. So hopefully we can keep our heads up. Just hope for like a 1-0 win on this one, honestly, and don't really think it's going to be a large margin game, honestly.
Yeah, FBref's data is a couple weeks behind, but they were overperforming their XG by 3, but they were overperforming their expected goals allowed as well. They were underperforming their expected goals conceded, and they've conceded 6 more. So some suspect goalkeeping going on potentially. Like you'd like to take advantage of that. So we'll see what we can do. I expect this to be a difficult, nervy away match. You know, Borussia Dortmund putting up good XG numbers that will not sustain itself just because it hasn't all season. So I'm going to have to go with a 2-1 win over Union Berlin. So now we have to give a quick shout out because we hit 200 members in our fantasy league this week, and that means a lot to us. We really appreciate your support and showing up for us in all mediums. You know, you can also rate us 5 stars, like the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You know, we had a guy repeat 2 out of the last 3 weeks coming out of the break, winning the Dortmund Dispatch Fantasy League that frequently. I think that's pretty impressive personally. But let's start off with 2 guys who tied for 4th place, and that's Cologne Seahawks and Larry Buys a Lighter, who you will all remember finished in the top 5 last year, pushing his way back up. Essa Reese in 3rd, Red Munich in 2nd, but we have a Dortmund fan topping our Bayern intruder in the top spot for the 2nd time in 3 weeks. It's myself. It is me. So thank you guys. You know, they say that podcasts, like, you need to have a certain intellect. Like, we need to make it a burden to start a podcast. And, you know, I locked in the last 3 weeks. And I've kind of shown that, you know, I've met the standard. You know, 13th overall in the league. Our top 5, Red Munich, Stags Reserves, Pints of Bayer, Bisek and Bauer, and Supercalifragilistic. Let's see, I need to know the full name, but, you know, Bundesliga fantasy app needs a little bit of work. I can't pull up the full name, but he's in the top spot. And I think I'm second for most, I am second to him only, or them only, for most weekly wins in the league. So I'm basically the second best. So
impressive.
That'll do it. Thank you, Pedro. And we know that you would be 3rd best if you were allowed to download the app in Brazil.
Yeah, I'm not in Brazil anymore. But I feel like I'm too late to the party now. So why bother?
Yeah. Yeah. They do have a second chance league. So I'm like top 181 in the world in the last 3 match weeks. But you did miss that. So if you'd had a little more forethought, you could have gotten into the second chance league. But
yeah, but
okay.
Next season I'll be there. I'll be there next season.
Next season you can compete with me because, you know, the rest of the hosts just start cutting it. Well, that'll do it for us. Thank you guys for joining and have a good one.
Jadon Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce and another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond
Jetzt
compare.
kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von Inzo an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!